This was sent to me by Aaron. Aaron tweeted this to me, and he said, Ron, I really want your thoughts on this. And in a perfect world, this article would be in The Onion. But it's not in The Onion. It's a real article that somebody wrote and they're serious about. And we're going to go here next. This is going to be our last story for the day. And here it goes. Thank you, Aaron, for sharing this. This is going to be a fun one to dive into. Hey, Lucy, what's up? She's coming over. Lucy's coming over. So check this out. Hillary Clinton has path to Democratic presidential nomination. This was not from 2016, by the way. This was written on November 2nd, 2019. So here's what Victor Jacques has to say. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right. And this is from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. This is a real opinion piece. The Democratic presidential field is so weak that Hillary Clinton would be crazy not to run for president one last time. It wasn't supposed to be this way. So the person who managed to lose to Trump, the field, Lucy's concerned. Look at this. Lucy's like, no, she can't. If she runs. Okay, so a year ago, it looked as if the Democrats would have a plethora of interesting candidates. Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker, and Julian Castro. Man, that just screams interesting, doesn't it? Isn't that interesting? Senator Cory Booker, the guy who the answer to every question in every debate is Trump's bad. The guy who I don't even think he realizes he's running for president. I think the only votes he would get are from a handful of his college buddies. Kamala Harris, who's a prosecutor who loves throwing poor people in prison. And if your kids don't get to school in time, she wants to throw you in jail. Oh, and she loves to throw low drug offenders in prison for minor drug offenses, but she'll brag about how she smoked pot in college. Kamala Harris, yeah, she's super interesting. And recently she said, I've never been beholden to a corporation or special interest. And you couldn't help but wonder, was Steve Mnuchin laughing when you were saying that? Kamala Harris, she's also cutting back on her staff. She's cutting all of her staff in New Hampshire. We don't know if this means she's getting ready to drop out or if she's just cutting the staff so she can hire cheaper prison labor. We're not sure. We're left to wonder. All right. So this offered relative use in racial diversity, according to the author of this article. Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota expanded the party's appeal in the Midwest just because she lives there. You know what's expanding the party's appeal in the Midwest? Populist ideas. That's what's expanding the party's appeal in the Midwest. Appeals to the working class. In places like Wisconsin, where there's strong unions and working class parties. And places like Michigan, where they love Bernie Sanders and then Hillary couldn't win the state. Amy Klobuchar happens to be out there, so she's expanding popularity in the Midwest. She's expanding popularity nowhere. And then Beto O'Rourke almost pulled off a historic upset in his Texas Senate race. There was energy and excitement. Fast forward to the present, a trio of white folks in their 70s are leading the field. Senator Bernie Sanders remains a wild-eyed socialist. He recently had a heart attack, but he still has more energy than Joe Biden. Biden's advisors have decided that his best strategy is to talk as little as possible. That's true. Senator Elizabeth Warren has a plan for everything. That's not true, except for how to pay for her plans. She does have ideas on how to pay for her plans. They're just not the right way to pay for them. Medicare for all, the right way to pay for it is Bernie Sanders' approach, which mirrors the approach that pretty much every other industrialized country has. Her approach basically puts a head tax on employers. This is inefficient in so many ways. And the only reason she came up with it is because when people bring up the tax issue, she doesn't know how to refute it. Liz Warren can't refute a basic, easy to squash right-wing talking point on Medicare for all. So instead, she came up with some ridiculous way on how to pay for Medicare for all. All right. So 2 weeks ago, the New York Times reported that the Democratic bigwigs aren't happy with the field. What about what the people think? Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't care what the bigwigs think, because when we cared what they thought, they put their thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton, shoved her down our throats, and then Trump became president. Party insiders worry that Biden is fading. Well, Biden is fading. The only time Biden told the truth so far this campaign season was when he said, "My time's up." All right, so they're comparing it to what the Republicans faced in 2012. So here's what they say about Clinton. Clinton is an exception and is reportedly interested in running again. If she thinks she can win, she can, according to the author of this article. There are logistical challenges to entering so late, but Clinton has significant advantages over the other candidate, like her own troll farm and the DNC. Considerable advantages. The vast majority of Democrats voted for her just 3 years ago, and most people who voted in that election, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everything in between who showed up to vote, said they were voting for the lesser of two evils. That's what most people said. They voted for Hillary Clinton because her opponent was Donald Trump, and she couldn't beat him. Okay, let's see. The vast majority, Unlike Biden, Obama has previously endorsed one of her campaigns for president. She has deep support within the African-American community. Actually, a lot of them didn't show up to vote for her, but okay. Clinton has the best electability argument of any candidate. She beat Trump in the popular vote in 2016. What's the person's name who wrote this? Victor, I have some news for you. Here in the United States, we have this horrible thing called the Electoral College. It is a terrible thing, and it should have been eliminated years and years and years ago. But we still have it. Hillary Clinton, when she lost in 2016, could have taken up a cause, like Al Gore did, like Jimmy Carter did. Her cause could have been the Electoral College. She didn't do that. Instead, she took up the only cause that she knows how to be passionate about, herself. That's the only cause she has ever or will ever care about. Sorry, I bumped your head there, Lucy. So it doesn't matter that she won the popular vote when she didn't win the Electoral College, is my point. All right, Biden's polling has been fading since May. That's because he has the same problem Hillary Clinton had. He can't raise his poll numbers. So keep in mind, what's interesting is this person points out all the flaws about Biden, and they're right. When they're saying how terrible Biden is, they're right. What they don't point out is that Biden and Hillary share the same flaw. They cannot raise their own poll numbers. Every time they talk, people like them less. Hey, Biden, every time he talks, people like him less. That's bad. Let's get somebody else with the same problem. They can win. That's the logic of this article. That an actual news outlet published with a straight face. Biden's polling has been fading since May. Clinton's entry would erode it further. If Biden isn't the presumptive frontrunner, he doesn't have a compelling case to make. His candidacy would likely collapse with his supporters going to Clinton. Amazingly, in the modern Democratic Party, Clinton and Biden are moderates. That's amazing that they're considered moderates and not right-wing. I know this person means it the other way. They're saying Clinton and Biden are on the left, which, wow. Imagine what this guy's Overton window must look like. Holy shit. And any other country in the world, by the way, Clinton and Biden, they would be considered far right. They would be considered far right wing. Not on all issues, but on most issues. They'd be considered, at the very least, overall center right. On some issues, they'd be considered far right. On some issues, they'd be considered more centrist, but on a lot of issues, they'd be considered far right. And overall, they would be right wing or at best center right. In any other country, any other industrialized country in the world. Here, they're considered moderates. In the United States, they're considered moderate. So anyway, if Clinton announced before Thanksgiving that she was running, I'd make her odds. This is according to the article. I'd make her the odds-on favorite to win the Democratic nomination. Wow. Well, I hope Hillary Clinton doesn't read this opinion piece. Check out this photo. She's going, I might force you guys to have 4 more years of Trump. I haven't decided yet. If Hillary were to get the nomination, it would be because they cheated for her again. They would cheat her way to the nomination again. And I like how this guy really tries to gloss over Bernie Sanders. He describes Bernie Sanders as a wide-eyed socialist who just had a heart attack. That's how this guy describes Bernie Sanders. The guy who has more grassroots support than any other candidate. The guy who has over 1 million volunteers. The guy who has outraised everybody else through grassroots donations with an average of $18. Everybody else has super PACs. Pete Buttigieg meeting with Wall Street every other day, asking them for money in 7 different languages. Bernie's still out fundraising that guy. Joe Biden open to super PACs now. Bernie's still out fundraising him. Bernie's winning in every poll when that poll is reported honestly. And this guy's trying to marginalize Bernie Sanders. If you're going to talk about how unappealing all the other candidates are, that's pretty easy. You want to talk about how ineffective Amy Klobuchar is? Absolutely. You want to talk about Kamala Harris, who can't even get footing in her own home state of California because we see through her. That's easy to talk about. You want to talk about how Cory Booker spends most of his days asleep, and I don't even think that guy realizes that he's running for president. The donor money is keeping him afloat by the skin of his teeth. We can talk about that. This person brings up Beto O'Rourke, who just dropped out recently, which, you know what I have to say to that? Some are born to run, some are born to lose. You finally realize which one you are, a guy who couldn't beat Ted Cruz. Julian Castro, whenever he talks about actual issues, he is boring as shit. The only time he's ever good is when he's going after other people like Beto O'Rourke or something like that. His entire debate, he should just spend roasting everyone else on stage. That's the only time he is remotely interesting. So you want to talk about that, that's fine. But what you want to gloss over is how popular Bernie Sanders is. And how Bernie Sanders is appealing to unlikely voters. You want to gloss over that. You want to gloss over the fact that Tulsi Gabbard becomes the most Googled candidate after she goes after an establishment candidate and after a debate. You want to talk about how they, by the way, another person they don't mention, and this is somebody who I disagree with on a lot of things, but it's still in many ways an outsider, Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang bringing up some ideas that is not in sequence with the Democratic establishment and has a big grassroots support group because of it. I wish Andrew Yang would have ran as a Republican. Because technically it would make sense. I mean, he's a tech libertarian. It would make perfect sense for him to run as a Republican. He's not for Medicare for all, something we all suspected for a long time, but he's finally came out. He's not for it. If he would have ran as a Republican, it would have been like a Ron Paul-style libertarian run, but he'd be a modern-day version of that, and he would have gone up against Trump. I really think, had Andrew Yang run as a Republican, I don't know what could have happened. But anyway, so Aaron, to answer your question about this opinion piece, it's interesting that somebody, so I'm assuming this person is pretty right-wing if they're just referring to Bernie Sanders as a wild-eyed socialist, and they're expressing amazement that Clinton and Biden are only moderates. Because to this person, they're apparently lefties. It's interesting. Isn't it interesting that the person cheerleading Hillary to enter the race the most is somebody on the right? Isn't that interesting? Or does it make perfect sense? If you're on the right, of course you want Hillary to run. One, you probably agree with her on a lot of things. And two, you might want to see Trump win. So you really want to make sure that the only person who runs against him, is the person that you're sure he can beat. We're for sure he can beat Hillary Clinton. We're for sure he can beat Joe Biden. But why not just have a rematch so you're 100% sure? Very interesting. Right-winger wanting Hillary Clinton to run. Very interesting.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know